Hey everyone, it's Simi Shah, and welcome to Trailblazers. On this podcast, I dive deep into the journeys of trailblazing South Asians, sharing the stories of the leaders and dreamers lighting the way across the South Asian diaspora. Before I jump into today's episode, I want to spend a second and tell you guys about the newly launched Trailblazers Agency and Expert Network. At South Asian Trailblazers, we've long been dedicated to elevating and convening extraordinary leaders through our media platform and our community-wide events. Our agency and expert network is simply the next step toward fulfilling that mission. We're forging impactful collaborations between exceptional leaders and visionary organizations. If you're part of a company or organization looking for fresh and diverse voices to speak at your next summit, conference, or event, or represent you in a new brand campaign, please get in touch. If you're looking for someone to offer you expertise on a project that you're working on, reach out and we can plug you into our expert network of trailblazers across industries. And finally, if you're a speaker or a leader looking to connect with companies who want to share in your expertise, feel free to reach out. You can learn all about us at southasiantrailblazers.com/trailblazers-agency. And with that, let's jump into our episode. Welcome back, everyone, to Season 7 of South Asian Trailblazers. Today, I am so excited to welcome Nikhil Saboo. Nikhil is an actor. Most recently, he played Connor Murphy in the national tour of Dear Evan Hansen, becoming the first South Asian actor to take on the Tony-nominated role. His repertoire to date spans the first national tour of Hamilton, an American musical, and being a member of the original Broadway cast of Mean Girls, the musical, and several other productions. His career in the arts is extensive. In addition to appearing on television as a featured singer for the 72nd Tony Awards and SNL's Season 43 finale, he's also served as a camera operator and cinematographer. Nikhil received his bachelor's in music and the business of entertainment, media, and tech from NYU. And from there, he immediately jump-started his career doing national tours with A Christmas Story, the musical, and Junie B. Nikhil and I have been talking about doing this forever, and as you can tell, he has such an amazing career, and I'm so excited to have him here with me today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for the intro. Sometimes when someone lays it down as a linear thing, I'm like, like those things all did happen, and I can't wait to just talk more about it and share, honestly.
It's funny that you say that because people always have this very visceral reaction to me reading their bios, but I'm like, it's important that you hear this because sometimes it's just a good reflection mechanism and a hype mechanism too of how much you've accomplished. But to that end, I want to go back to your roots before your work as a professional actor and artist. Looking back at your childhood, you've often described yourself as a brown boy trying to fit in. Can you tell me about some of those core memories that helped shape your professional aspirations?
Growing up, my family and I moved every 2-3 years internationally within the States. And with those constant changes, it was difficult to root myself within myself, but also I got the opportunity to reinvent myself every single time. 2 different ways of creating my identity as a person were coming at each other and making me. I think that also where we lived and the assimilation of being first generation and going to school and family, I camouflaged a lot growing up. And I would always try and not necessarily hide my identity, but try and make myself more than just being brown. And it's interesting how now you go through this full circle moment where it's like, no, everything that I have to offer comes from within, comes from my identity, comes from my family and my culture and everything like that. It's so interesting how I just didn't know. But I'm thankful that I have gone to that side of the spectrum and now I'm here. But yeah, I always just wanted to fit in. And I think that was because we moved around so much. But then I was in the North Shore suburbs of Chicago in Winnetka, Illinois. And I did all of high school there. So that was nice that I got to root myself and have a full 4 years somewhere, and especially it being high school where we're all like about to launch pad ourselves into college. I'm glad I didn't move during high school. And within high school is where I found my passion for the arts. Growing up, I never really took dance class or singing or this. I played the piano, like music was always in my wheelhouse. I would always love to dance. I would literally, after school, I would do some of my homework, but then I'd like go down to the basement and like put on Usher or like NSYNC and I would just freestyle. Like that is literally how I learned how to like move my body and dance. So it's like all these little itty bits of things that I had to lean into. And I think that with everything changing, it forced me to just be as curious as possible. And we can go into this more, but I think that the choice of choosing curiosity and the choice of saying yes to a lot of things that would appear and claim them for myself in the moment is what led me on. But yeah, growing up, it was a lot of change and honestly, a lot of trying to put on other people's clothes on myself. And I think that post-college, it has been something where taking that off and being within my own skin. And it has only proven to help me, if we're talking career-wise, it has only helped me more, but also as a person to other people, to friends, family. I feel like it's only helped in that way. But yeah, a brown boy just trying to fit in.
I love that sentiment around exercising curiosity and learning to say yes. And also the beautiful metaphor of trying to walk in someone else's clothes and then that process of being comfortable in your own skin. It sounds like one of those first times that you really exercised that curiosity and said yes was in the ensemble of Thoroughly Modern Millie, your junior year of high school. Can you tell us about this production and the high school teacher that changed your life?
Really unearthed. I love this. Interestingly, I was just back in Chicago, not even a week ago, and I got to teach the class that planted the seed for everything that I do now.
Wow.
He's passed away since, but my teacher, Tim Esberg, was my advisor for all 4 years, but just so happened to be one of the choral directors of the school. And one day I was volunteering at it's called NAMES program. It's for like bullying and bullying prevention. And I guess I'm just going to tell you maybe the full story a little bit more, because why not? But I found out that I had a heart disease. That was my freshman, sophomore year. And with that, I stopped all sports. I went to this place where my life just took a pause and I wanted to recalibrate. And what's so interesting is that a guitar fell in my lap during that time. And I started to teach myself guitar. I started to sing. And I remember walking into my advisory at 8 a.m. and asking Mr. Esberg, how do I start singing? We were at this NAMES program in the beginning of the day. And he just saw it in my eyes. And I remember him being like, we'll do it tomorrow. Like literally we'll start tomorrow. He gave me my first song. He coached me on it. He gave me a track to learn it. And it really was because of him that it kind of all started. And he was one of the choral directors of the school. And this class that I went back and taught a week ago, they put on 2 shows every year. One like main stage show and Thoroughly Modern Millie was my first one. I was in the dance ensemble.
Oh my gosh.
But I remember it being the first time being on stage and doing something like this. Remember, I was like, why do I love this so much? Why does this click with me? And then I realized that it's just a Bollywood movie, but live.
I love that
and I was
so
like,
much.
Wait, that is literally what musical theater is. And Bollywood movies have these like crazy stories and all of a sudden there's like a problem all of a sudden. But like that's literally what happens with musical theater is that you have text, the problem rises, and then you burst into song. And that's literally
That's what we grew up on.
Yeah. My form of entertainment, I remember, probably you too, like every weekend we would like watch a Bollywood movie or 2 or 3. So that's why I feel like I gravitated towards it so quickly is that click happened of how musical theater was just basically a live Bollywood movie. And I was living my dreams. It was like, yeah, I want to be a Bollywood movie star growing up or whatever. And I was like, yeah, it kind of clicked. So I did that. That was my first show. And then that was my junior year of high school. And my senior year, I played Jean Valjean in Les Mis. I can send you photos. It's kind of, I like grayed out my hair and had like old makeup.
I definitely will need these photos.
I'll send you those. I definitely have photos. But then it was that class specifically. And honestly, to go back to brown boy fitting in is that even through high school, I was a social butterfly. I was a floater. I had so many little groups of friends. But as soon as I engaged with the theater community, I was like, oh, you guys are weird and I'm weird. And also you guys understand empathy the way that I understand empathy. And you don't judge me at all. And I can just come to the place and you want to listen and you want to engage in this way. And I think that's what the arts do. I think that it's what music does, what collaboration does. And they pulled me into that community and they're the ones who inspired me and encouraged me to get a voice teacher that year, to make my pre-screen CD for colleges. They're the ones who told me every single college to audition for. There's not a college that I didn't audition for that one of my best friends wasn't auditioning for. It's just so happened. And with that, that's when the yeses start to happen. It was when someone was like, you want to do this for life? Do you actually want to do this? And I was like, yes. And I haven't stopped saying yes. So I give lots and lots of credit to my high school advisor, Mr. Esberg, and I give lots of credit to that class and the people that I met in that class. And I am still best friends with so many of them. And there's not a moment when they came to see Dear Evan Hansen in Chicago or LA, or if they came to see Mean Girls, I wanted to have a moment with each one of them. So many of them came, but I wanted to let them know that they were part of the reason of why I'm here today. Ooh, I'm getting emotional about it because it just means so much to feel that point A and point B
come together.
And the people that just believed in you when it felt like there was nothing to believe in. Maybe they felt it, but for me, I didn't see it. And so I'm just so grateful for those people that were in my life at the very beginning and just pushed me along and said, yes, 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 yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh my God, of course. That was sort of long-winded, but that is my story.
No. Again, appreciate your candor so much. And it sounds like part of what was so formative about the experience about having that community as early as high school was because you were battling heart disease. Can you share a little bit about the ways in which that impacted not just your life, but your mindset going forward about pursuing these creative passions?
Of course. I think that my heart disease, especially in that moment, it honestly just made me think about time and how precious that is. I think it shifted the mentality of my family too. And I think my family's always been this way, but it just fine-tuned it even more of, no. Nisha, my sister, and Nikhil, just go towards the thing that you love. It's okay.
Wow.
I can't say maybe my family, if I found out about musical theater in some other way and my heart disease didn't happen, I bet they would support me in doing it. But I think that was the thing that shifted my, honestly, maybe sounds a little too dramatic or cheesy, but actual appreciation for life and how you want to invest yourself and enroll yourself into yourself and also what you output. But I also think we had a shift as a family. And I don't think that I would have gone so headfirst into it all if I didn't feel like, oh, I want to take hold of my life. I want to take control of my life. And I'm going towards something that I don't see anybody do. I don't see any other people that I can look up to. I'm not sure why I'm doing this. And also the thing is that I actually didn't go into NYU for musical theater. I went for classical voice and opera.
Oh, wow.
So that was even something even more offsetting. And then in college, my freshman year, the director of the program, Bill Westbrooks, was like, I think you're too much of a dancer for your own good. Do you want to be musical theater? And then I switched. So my voice teacher was like, you're going to sing German Lieder for the rest of your night. I'm going to say his name, Dr. Nitschke, said, you're going to sing German Lieder for the rest of your life, and that's how you're going to make your money. And I said, uh-huh. I was like, yeah, that's what it is going to be. And again, saying yes, but if I didn't, I would have never auditioned for NYU. You can always see your life as little dominoes hitting each other. But I think that because of my heart disease, it allowed me to be okay with all the ambiguity that life comes with and just allowed me to just pierce through anything that felt gray because there really isn't nothing to lose. You can't lose. If you really lead with your heart and you really are going to go through it, at that point, I just felt that to my bones and I didn't know really how to phrase it, but I felt it inside. And I'm glad that I had the support of my family with it. And I had the support of my friends to push me along.
Yeah. I want to double down on the steps that you took next, particularly at NYU, but I will spend a second saying I've experienced something similar in my own family, not me personally. albeit much later in my life and my sister's life, who's 10 years older than me. And I get how it's so hard to articulate when it was something that's so personal and that you probably went through as a family and within your own community. But even in my own family, where my parents were Indian immigrants, they're quite risk averse. I've seen that mentality shift of who cares? Go do what you want to do. Life is so short. And it is so jarring because for the better part of 2 decades, I never experienced that. But I can't even imagine that if that is something that had happened as critical an inflection point as high school for someone, the ways in which that would have changed your life. So I just want to say that it resonates and I appreciate you sharing that.
I'm so with you with that. And also I think about all these things of like, oh, what if I didn't move around? What if I didn't experience so much change? Would I have found my why sooner? Would I have found that passion sooner?
Yeah. So to this end, you go to New York University. Originally, it sounds like to study classical voice. You end up studying music and vocal performance and a minor in the business of entertainment, media, and technology. How did it feel to pursue something outside the stereotypical scope of studies, which are often expected of South Asians? And did you face any barriers at the outset or as you went along in your career?
So much doubt. I had to continue to listen to myself, but there was so much doubt throughout the entire thing. And at the same time that I was learning about it, because I did not know anything about musical theater, and I was trying to be a sponge towards something that I'm at NYU for. And then I have to educate myself, but that's not just it. I need to educate my family at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that doing that, they were so porous to everything, but at the same time, because that was happening, I would always feel like, also you're in college, I can shift a lane if I want to. Something told me to not. And I'm so glad. But there was a lot of doubt. And also, I think that it was also with what I saw. The people in my program, pretty much, there was no other Indian person in my program. And then another person who you should honestly have on here is Kuhu Verma. She came in 2 years later. And as soon as I looked around and I saw her there was like an opening where like the entire program comes here. We get to meet all the incoming freshmen. And I saw another brown person. I was like, oh my gosh. And she's my little sister. That's what it is. But that's the thing is, and then you're in New York City. So you have the opportunity to go see a Broadway show. You see every single Broadway show. And as a student, I don't go to see a Broadway show for enjoyment. I go to study. I'm going there being like, where do I see myself? And I didn't see myself anywhere. But then I would go back the next day to go to class to study all of this. But with that, it's like, what do you do in that situation? When you feel something within yourself that feels natural, but it isn't there out in the world, do you stop? Do you just say, let's pack up shop and let's go somewhere else? Or do you make that choice to lean into that curiosity, lean into that ambiguity, and then truly take a shovel and create a space for yourself?
Yeah.
I don't think that I actually knew what I was doing in college. I actually did not know the impact that I will make. I graduated in 2015 and I booked Mean Girls in 2017. But several years later, I didn't know the impact of what it meant to be South Asian and on Broadway. I didn't know because there was no example. The 2 people that I could name that I saw are Vishal Vaidya and Shobha Narayan. So it's like them two, I remember seeing Great Comet and seeing Shobha and being like, what? Whoa, you're like, this is wild. Or Vishal I saw in Groundhog Day. And so there was something, but at the same time, there was no lily pad for me to stand on. With that of going to see a show or going to see a reading of something or a workshop of something or breakdowns coming down and reading these breakdowns of these characters and being like, I could play that. I'm not the description of that character, but I know I possess that. I possess that as literally the artist that I am, the human that I am. I know I can play that, but I know that that role is not written for me. Wow. So I think that having that in my world and then also like studying it at the same time, there was just so much doubt, but I just kept with it. I found out that storytelling is one of the most powerful things out there.
Absolutely.
And I'll quote Ariana Afsar. There's another person you need to have.
We had her on.
Oh, you did? You did?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yay. But Ari has this phrase that art changes culture and culture changes policy. And I just so believe in that. And I believe that storytelling really influenced culture and that thing called, and this is maybe more beyond of what I feel like I'm doing today and what I want to do with my life and my art, and that I always want to make it actionable in some way. But yeah, I just being a storyteller in that way, I just wanted to keep on saying yes to that. It was so enticing to me. And it was just everything that I wanted to do. Did I also get a minor? Did I also get a real estate license after that? Did I also?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because
that's who we are.
That's who we are. Yeah, exactly. But it was so interesting with that doubt. I think that I'm very thankful for that doubt because it always made me question and it always made me refocus, which I'm very thankful for. And I think that those times of refocus, when I doubted myself or doubted my path and said, cool, I'm going to go and get my real estate license. I allowed that rubber band to stretch. I moved away from acting and then filled it with real estate, filled it with other things that came my way. And then all of a sudden it snapped back and I was more saturated as a human and experiences, blah, blah, blah. But then it snapped back and I booked Mean Girls. And I let all of that go. I was like, don't need to do this anymore. But yeah, those moments of doubt, I'm actually very, very thankful for. Those are all the times where I did take a shift this way and I did take a shift that way. And I would just encourage people that when they do have those moments of doubt, that it is actually a very beautiful moment.
I appreciate that. And I think something that's important that you just captured is that I think sometimes we feel like we're doing a disservice to ourselves when we stretch a little bit beyond the confines of that pure passion we've been pursuing. But it's not to say that you're letting it go. And to your point, I think we're all allowed to be multidimensional people and build these fuller versions of ourselves in pursuit of some grander dream. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to keep yourself from other opportunities. And it sounds like for you, Mean Girls happened almost at one of those key core inflection points. You made your Broadway debut in Mean Girls, the musical. How did it feel to step onto a Broadway stage for the first time? And can you tell us a little bit about life after graduating and what was the process of getting there?
Yeah. After graduating, there's a couple piece of like little gems that I love to tell students when they're in high school, but also especially when in college. And for college, I got signed with an agent pretty much as soon as I graduated or right before I graduated. And it is one of my biggest pieces of advice to seek representation for artists that are about to graduate, because they become an extension of you. You have people that will root for you or anything like that. But because I had agents, they were sending me in for stuff already. I was going to what's called an ECC, which is like open calls or EPAs for principal roles or anything like that. But to have an agent vouch for you and also send you auditions was what allowed me to book several jobs here in New York City. I booked that national tour of A Christmas Story. It was the summer, like I graduated in the summer and I booked it like a month or two later. And that was my first job. And then also the thing is that it's just about keeping that momentum going. I think that's momentum for yourself and also through your agents. But I got to tell you, there were so many auditions. As an actor, my job is not to act. My job is to audition. That is literally what my job is. To act is the extra. It's the cake. It's great. It's wonderful. But yeah, my job is to audition. And so the amount of no's that one gets, and you can talk to any actor, they will probably also say this, but within those first 2 years of graduating, there were so many no's and so many times where I was like, oh, wow, like I do feel myself growing some thicker skin to this, some normalness to all of this. But at the same time, this kind of sucks. Like it really does. And the thing is that you have to really, in those moments, just search for your why. I think what I did is I really tried to search for my why, and my why was to represent in a way in this place where there wasn't really any. And then also I had to build community. I had to build friends that were like, after this audition, we're going to get schmackeries. But I got the audition for Mean Girls, and it was for Kevin G and also for the ensemble, and it was just for the lab. So in a process of building a Broadway show, it goes from a reading to a workshop, multiple workshops, maybe a staged reading, and then what is called a lab, which is pretty much, you could do the entire show, but mainly it's for you to like really, really work on the show. The actors, dancers, everyone get input on building things. Like in Mean Girls, there's 16 counts of choreo that my friend Kevin has helped choreograph, and it's in the show. So that's what sort of happens in a lab. And then you have an out of town, which happened in DC. And then after DC, we then went to Broadway. But I remember going in for those auditions and going into every single one, just being like, this is mine.
Wow.
Yeah. And it really did feel that way. This is not from a boastful place, but like it was innately inside myself. And I was like, why do I want to work 10 times harder for this than any audition? But then also this is coming natural to me. And also all the pieces that come together of the movement style, the character. Also, funny enough, my high school is what Mean Girls is based off of. So there's that. And then it just felt really full circle. In my last audition, Tina was there and the whole gang was there. And you have your resume, and the last thing on my resume said New Trier graduate. And she said, did you actually go to New Trier? And I said, go Trevs. And I walked out of the room. Trevians were the mascot.
Yeah.
But it just felt full circle and it felt so right. And it really just was like, oh, cool. Time and opportunity and talent all just intersected at one point. And that's where it happened. And so grateful for it. It was probably the most thrilling 2 years ever.
Wow.
It checked every single box a Broadway debut could ever check, and also added more, like the Tony Awards or like doing SNL or any Today Show, Late Night with Seth Meyers, like anything. It was wonderful.
Yeah. I want to spend a second talking about the other media and opportunities you're partaking in. But first, today you've had the opportunity to take place in a number of productions, from The Boy Who Danced on Air, Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen. I know that your role as Connor Murphy in Dear Evan Hansen was particularly memorable for you, especially given you were the first South Asian to take on the Tony-nominated role. Can you tell us about why this role was so impactful, and also just what it's like been transitioning through these different productions as you look back at the arc of your career thus far?
Yeah. Also, even in Hamilton, I was going to be the first South Asian to ever play Burr or any of the roles. So it is for Connor too, but also for Hamilton, which is literally just all people of color pretty much. That was actually kind of crazy. But to transition to all these different shows, I think that, like I was saying before, is that I finally had a really real conversation with myself that I have to stop camouflaging and I have to stop shape-shifting myself to other things. And it's so interesting that we think that, oh, I need to become this character. And whenever you're receiving a character, it's like, no, the character's kind of already within me. And if they want me to do it, if they think that I'm right, then great. But all I have to do, if I ever work on a character or anything like that, you more work from within. And so when I had that conversation with myself of like, how do I want to approach my artistry? But then how do I want to walk into these auditions? And how do I want my career to happen of like, who do I want to be in this industry? I think I had all of those conversations happening. And then that allowed me to start getting jobs. It was literally myself being in my own way of trailblazing.
Wow. Yeah. And it feels like melding your own self and personality with the roles that you were being handed.
100%. For Connor, so I was with Hamilton before the pandemic. The pandemic happened. We all went through our evolution. We all had conversations that we had. And I went back to Hamilton for a month. But then I booked Dear Evan Hansen right before I left for Hamilton. And we didn't know, but I think it was the second week of rehearsal. And I got a call from my agent being like, hey, so you want to be Connor Murphy in Dear Evan Hansen? I was like, oh my God. And I had to make the choice of, now, what story do you want to tell? And obviously Hamilton is the masterpiece that it is. And then I also then was like, Dear Evan Hansen, mental health, and also this role as well. A really misunderstood person going through a really hard time. Well, it's how you want to see it, but commit suicide. And I think post-pandemic, I was like, this is the story that I want to tell.
Wow.
And also, I loved that it was the national tour, because then I got to go around all of the United States, meet so many different people. But I loved that for the people that are watching this or have seen Dear Evan Hansen, the first scene is me coming out with my family on a breakfast table. And in the first 6 months, it was me and then my 3 white family members. I loved every single time. Every single time I was like, this is a story too. This is such a valid story. that I can be a part of. And I'm so glad that 3,000 people out in that audience are seeing this, that are seeing me literally look at my color of my skin. Please acknowledge my color of my skin and acknowledge maybe the backstory that is happening. Was he adopted? Did they had to take him in? Is he a foster child? Like all of it added so much more depth to the story. And it was interesting when talking with Michael Greif, the director, and my family members, Claire Rankin, Steph LaRochelle, and John Hemphill. We wanted to create an actual backstory about all of this. And Claire Rankin, who played my mother, said, this is even more heartbreaking because I took you in, I adopted you, and then I failed you. And it just was like, wow, no, that's where the story is. It got even deeper, literally because of who I am as a person and what I bring to the project. So there's a thing of how you want to view it from actually behind the scenes as actors, how who I am actually deepened the story. And then now, if we want to say in front of the curtain for the audience, it's now allowing them to see this whole world in a different way. And I think that pushes the mold even more too.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that both conversations were happening at the same time. And it was so interesting that every single time I would come out of the stage door or anything like that, there wasn't anybody that was like, you're not white, or what happened, or like blah, blah, blah. And maybe they didn't have the gall to say it or anything. But the thing is that I want them to have that conversation. Oh, that's interesting. I want them to do that. And then every single person of color, every single brown person that came up to me being like, it was so wonderful to see you do this, and the same thing of it deepening the story or whatever. But this opportunity really etched out with so much clarity of what I want to be, who I want to be, how I want to trailblaze in this industry, especially with theater and also beyond. So yeah, I think that's the role itself. And then also not talk about the story, like mental health, especially within the South Asian community. Hello? Like crickets, crickets, crickets. That was also something that I was like, oh, I really need to do this role because I know this is not a conversation that we truly, truly have within our community.
Yeah.
And it is something at least towards mental health. If you're having a bad day or you're having anxiety or you are going through pressures of literally life, school, etc., whatever it is, a lot of within our culture is to kind of like, no.
Let's not talk about it.
Don't talk about it. Just keep on going and work really hard. Put your head down and work really hard. And that is, even though that might be stereotypical, that is every other brown person will nod their head yes and be like, yeah, no.
I'm nodding my head right now.
No, exactly. And so that is also something where even that if that didn't click in with the average theater goer, if there was one person that got to see themselves in a character that was complicated.
Yeah.
That's like done. That's all I came here to do, was to let that one person in the audience feel seen. That's it. And I hopefully, if they felt seen, that would inspire them to have that conversation with their mom, their dad, their sister, their this, anybody. So it did. I'm glad you brought it up, but that role meant a lot for me just as an artist. It really clarified what I want to put out in this world. And yeah.
I love this so much, mostly because when we talk about diversity in the arts, particularly in a place like Broadway, there is a bit of tokenization that happens, right? Oh, we finally got a South Asian on Broadway, but I don't think we always think about it in terms of layers of the complexity that gets added when you put someone in a role that has traditionally been scripted for a white male, and you put someone who is not a white male like yourself in that role, and like the depth that it adds to the story there and the conversations that it inspires. I wish more of us were talking about that, because I think that is such a powerful twist and additive value that we even bring to these stories that have been told for decades and centuries at this point. So I really appreciate you highlighting that, because I didn't even see or understand that nuance until you were talking about it, of you come out on stage with this all-white family and suddenly there's like 3 other layers of conversation and back thought that are happening for people who are trying to understand it and uncover what really happened here.
Yeah. Yes.
It's amazing. Nikhil, you've obviously carved such an incredible career in the short time since you've graduated. In all these productions, you've delved into TV and film, which we'll talk about in a second. But I also want to highlight the fact that This can be a very emotionally and physically demanding career path. Work isn't always stable. You're often in these productions for maybe a few months or years at a time. It feels a bit touch and go. Can you talk a little bit about whether you've experienced the burnout or fatigue and how you've managed that and what's inspired you to keep going?
Yeah, I'm just going to give it to you real. After my Broadway debut, about a month went by, and then it was like, I'm going to go in and get my 3-hour workout, and I'm going to go home and play video games with my cousins or crash or go to sleep or anything like that. But so even when within a show, the glitz and glam that Broadway is a job. And one thing that I would have to constantly come back to, and my friend Ben Cook, I would enter the stage with him every single time for Mean Girls, the first person I enter with after I was a zebra. But he would be like, we're on Broadway, one. And he says, it's for that one person, two. And anytime that we were doing the fourth show, like the Sunday evening show, which was always really hype, but also it's like, or even the Sunday matinee or something, we're like, ooh, we've done 3 in a row already. Here's 4, and we have 1 more after this. When I felt like I was on almost E, just go back to your why and ground yourself in your present. I just want to say that for when I was in a show.
Yeah.
Now when you're out of a show, it is why people quit. It is why people leave this industry, because it is way too hard and way too hard mentally. And the up and down, the ebb and flow is so frequent and actually so aggressive that how do you come back to the surface? It's not a job bringing you, like giving a life raft up to the surface. No, it is you yourself swimming back up to the surface with things that you want to do, things that continue to propel you forward and allow you to keep on going day in and day out. Fill your creative cup. Don't fill your creative cup. Have days like that. But how do you still hold on to your identity as an artist and as a storyteller when you're not working? I feel like I have my own solution for it. Right now, I'm on a kick of, I want to make a 15-second short film every single day. And I do. Also, this new phone is just fantastic. But what it does is that it allows me to create, one, but also as a person, it allows me to see the world in a different angle than just, cool, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have coffee, I'm going to go to the gym and blah, blah. No. It allows me to be like, ooh, actually, let me walk down that street. That looks kind of interesting. If I get that in my day, I'm good.
Wow.
I'm still creating in that way. I'm still being an artist in that way. Also, it is a lot to have your own will and grit and determination. So much. And know that the waves that a show brings you, and now it goes a calm lake, it does take effort to be like, okay, I need to make waves. How am I going to make waves that I can then jump on my board and then like take it?
Yeah.
Really small example of making a 15-second short film. But for me, I love to create content and I love to consult things. But right now, I'm deep into helping my sister with her fashion clothing brand, Naira. And yes, I'm actor Nikhil, but like, I love this. And the one piece of advice that I give to high school students, I love meeting aspiring artists, especially in their high school age, or even in college, is that don't let go of that thing. Don't let go of those 4 other things that you actually really like. Sculpting, pottery, painting, skateboarding, playing the guitar, volunteering, any of those things. Because the thing is that as an artist, you will have the time for all of those things. And that being a robot singer, actor, dancer, that's the thing that's going to make you burn out.
Yeah.
It's actually not the downtime. The downtime is an opportunity for you to saturate your life with life. Because of acting and because of the journey and because of how much it has pointed me actually within myself, I've just only realized, and I encourage all of my friends to feel this way, that we really, really are infinite. And I don't mean this in a very rainbowy way or anything like that, but like you can do South Asian Trailblazers and also you can do those other 3 things. And I encourage you to, because you can, you really can. I just feel like we are so much more powerful and so much more infinite than we give ourselves credit for. And I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah.
It actually, simply put, I wish I really had something a lot more deeper and more profound.
No, I love it and I agree.
I love it. And life is just so much more fun, at least for me, when I am running to go to some pop-up thing or some show, but then on my subway ride, I want to shoot this little quick short film. And then all of these little different things, like that's what makes it so much fun for me. And
yeah,
I don't know, it's just a choice.
I love
and
it.
I just encourage everyone to feel their infiniteness or limitlessness. Any of these words you can use.
I love it. You've even expanded the definition of what your modality is, right? You've delved into TV and film. You've performed at the Tonys, SNL, Dirty Dancing, the Shadi Byline Party films. I mean, I know you've also expanded into, as you said, your sister's business, Naira, your work in modeling. Can you talk a little bit about your broader aspirations as an artist and what it's been like delving into these multitude of experiences?
Yeah, I think that even though most of them were connected with theater in a way, but I think that I'm also just excited to delve into more on screen just because it feels like the seed was theater, but the seed before that was like watching Bollywood movies.
Yeah.
Even if it is movies that are more musical or are more dramatic in ways, any things. But it's new to me and it's fresh. And I can feel that every part of me is just like curious to go in that direction. And one thing that if I've learned is if my curiosity is pointing towards that way, we're going to go that way.
I love that.
But yeah, I think that being involved in different mediums of the industry only helps you in every single thing you do. It just gives you more perspective on everything. So if that is one thing I could say about the TV stuff that I have done.
I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the industry at large, particularly given how much has happened over the past number of years. This industry has seen its fair share of difficulty and strife in 2020 and beyond. It was COVID. More recently, it was the strike with the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and the Writers Guild of America, which has fortunately, hopefully come to its final conclusion. Given your work as an artist, can you share a bit of your thoughts on the macro dynamics of what's been happening in this industry, particularly given the close proximity to your own work?
Yeah. As I said, how art changes culture and culture changes policy, like Ari says. I think that it's interesting how all of those things in the past since 2020 have collided. And so much of what is happening in our world is affecting the art that we create. And so much of that then is throwing out messages of what we should believe in and would do and all that type of stuff. So I think there is a full collision happening in 3 different ways in our business. And it is changing the art that we make, and people are making more intentional art. And I think that within our business too, a lot of creators and writers are writing what they've always wanted to write. They're realizing that because of the Black Lives Matter movement, because of so many things that's happened since, that I've been sleeping on this idea, or I've been sleeping on my own story. And also with our age, everything that's on here, you can literally just record yourself and put it on there, and now it's out in the world.
Yeah.
That frictionless type of creation is, I think, pushing how we see art. I also think that because of all of this, there has been a lot of recalibration as well. I am so happy that we all went on strike because it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And people are waking up to it and literally putting their stake in the ground and saying, I'm not moving. I actually don't have to move until these things are changed because it's actually not right. It is not right in any sense. Why do we have to shift our mentality to be like, wait, we don't get a break for blah, 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 or AI is going to be blah, what? It's like, no, it shouldn't happen. So I think the community at large and the industry at large is going through a giant recalibration process. And I'm just so excited for what it's going to look like next year. And I'm not sure if auditions are going to be popping up or how people feel like people are celebrating a little bit now that both the writer and SAG-AFTRA strike is over. But I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm glad that, just like we said before, we just asked questions. We forced ourselves to ask questions of like, this isn't right. We need to change this. So I'm glad that this recalibration of the industry has happened. And I'm really, really curious on the stories that are going to be made because of it.
With that recalibration and progress in mind, the last question I have for you is, what's next? What's the vision?
What is next? It's so interesting. So we've talked about theater for a while, and it has been the last 10 years of my life. But I recently signed on with managers called the Rosenzweig Group out in LA. And also I recently signed with New Agents, which is Stewart Talent. And both of them
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And now that the strike is over and everything like that, it's like, the trifecta team, let's come together. And they just want me to do TV film and push me in that way. And so I'm really excited to put my time into that medium. I will always come back to theater, as I've shared from early Modern Millie at New Trier High School because of Tim Esberg to where I am now. I will always keep that close to my heart, but I'm also now just seeking to tell other stories in different mediums. So I think TV film is the next thing. And then maybe we can have another one after 5 more years pass. I'm like, these are the things that I've gone through now.
Yes. Trust me, I've already thought so deeply about how many revisited episodes we're going to have to do, part 2, part 3, because all trailblazers like you, your careers are constantly evolving and all that you're accomplishing. Nikhil, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. Such a journey. And even the lyrical way in which you express your journey is so powerful and resonates with someone who's not even in the industry like myself. And so I appreciate you taking the time, and I cannot wait to see what's next.
Yay. Thank you, Simi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode. If you want to get new episodes straight to your inbox, subscribe to our newsletter at southasiantrailblazers.com and follow us at South Asian Trailblazers on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.